done with the 90s. Shaquille O'Neal always trying to talk like he was dominant. Every chance Shaquille O'Neal get, he try to say, oh, I was the most dominant center. He was garbage. He was big trash. He had a turnaround, jump, throw. That's a throw. Big trash. It looked even worse in slow-mo. Garbage. Oh, they like Penny Hardaway. Oh, Penny, he cold. The NBA was hyped in the 90s. We done with the 90s. That's a layup. I'm going to tell y'all something about the 90s and Reggie Miller. He had bad hands. He couldn't catch the ball. Every time Shaquille start talking about himself like he the most dominant, that's an air ball right up under the rim.
What's up, you guys? This is JGo2 back with another video. And in this video today, if you saw the title and you saw the thumbnail, then you already know what this topic is today. And it's about this whole we done with the 90s trend. I made a video not too long ago about the truth about the GOAT debate. And that video, I didn't really go fully into detail about all the players that, are in that GOAT conversation and saying every little detail that I could possibly say. I just kind of made it simple and sweet and said that I still think that Michael Jordan's the GOAT, but you still can't discredit greatness for what greatness is. And look, I see this trend now going around on TikTok and on Instagram and all this stuff about we're done with the 90s. Mostly, this argument is based on the fact that people are trying to consider players like LeBron James to be the GOAT because they are done with what people say about Michael Jordan being the GOAT or the Kobe Bryants of the world. But mostly, of course, Michael Jordan, with him, who is still, personally to me, considered the greatest basketball player to ever play the game. But look, man, let's just face the facts right now. The league is a much different place today than in comparison to the 90s or even the 2000s, for crying out loud. In the 2010s, Steph Curry is the person who really revolutionized the game later on in the 2010s, when him and the Warriors started winning NBA championships. And he is the pillar piece to what the NBA is now today, which is heavily revolved around shooting, spacing, having ball handling skills. Now you got centers out here shooting threes. You got power forwards out here shooting threes. You got centers that can dribble really good. Victor Wembanyama, look at him, perfect example. Chet, all these guys now have a huge skill set. And when you compare that to the 90s, and the play style of the 90s was a lot more focused inside the paint. A lot of mid-range shots, and the pace of the game was a lot slower. Actually, I believe this is one of the most slowest eras as far as pace in all of NBA history, the 90s. But overall, the 90s was just a more rugged style of play. And it really brought a lot of attention to the NBA during this time. The 80s was considered one of the golden eras of basketball, but the 90s, it reached an even newer peak because of players like Michael Jordan, who came in and really dominated the game in a way that we haven't seen in a while. That's why as well, you can't also forget the other players during this era. The John Stocktons, the Dennis Rodmans, Scottie Pippen, Hakeem Olajuwon. The list goes on with the amount of great players that were in the 90s. So when I see guys now today, posting clips online of clips that really we see now today as well in the NBA. They're shacked in the full for a reason in today's modern NBA, where you see guys making really stupid plays. And that same thing that happened in the 90s, where you seen guys make plays that weren't good, was the same thing throughout all of NBA history. So you can't just point to a few plays and say, oh man, look, this era of basketball is just so bad. I mean, for crying out loud, back then, the 90s, I feel like that era is one of the best eras of all time as well, because when you look at it, guys weren't trying to team up with each other. The NBA was a rivalry. Guys were trying to be the best player that they can possibly be for their team to help them win an NBA championship. The rivalries like the Pacers and the Knicks, the Bulls meeting up with the Jazz in the finals. I mean, the list goes on of all of the great rivalries that happened throughout the NBA 90s. And look, I'm not a person that grew up in the 90s. You know, I'm in the 2000s. 2010s really is the era of basketball that I've grown up in. But I can still say this as a big NBA fan watching games from the 90s. Not seeing every single one of them, because I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm just an old head. I've seen every single game. No, that's not the case at all. It makes no sense to discredit basketball for what it was then. You know, the game back then, yeah, guys, they weren't as skilled as they are today. You know, you take guys now, the game is built that way. That's really why you didn't have to have all that skill back in the days to play basketball. Comparison now in this newer era, this modern era of basketball that we see today. I think if you put a guy like Michael Jordan, for example, in this modern NBA, with the spacing that's allowed now, with all of the scoring opportunity and skill sets, I think he's a player that can adapt in this modern NBA and dominate. I wouldn't be surprised if he could average 40 points a game. I'm really being serious. I mean, I know I'm sounding over dramatic. Let's be realistic, probably around 30. But I think in this modern era, Jordan would really thrive because he had that skill set. And he would just have to adjust to this new style of play, the modern era. Yeah, he didn't shoot the three-point ball as much, but I think with practice, Jordan can become a pretty solid three-point shooter. Let's just be real here. Some guys could thrive and some guys wouldn't thrive. I think it's a balance between both of the eras of the 90s and now in the NBA. So looking at it too from another serious note, from the 90s in comparison to now in the NBA, look at the injury lists now in these days. I mean, guys like LeBron, they weren't playing 82 games. I remember a few years ago, LeBron James, he played all 82 games, and that was like a really big deal at the time. But you know, back in the day, Michael Jordan, John Stockton, these are some of the most durable players in NBA history, and they've played 82 games, multiple NBA seasons. Karl Malone too. The list goes on of guys in the 90s who played just about every single game. And now look at this modern era. Yeah, guys are load managing, and the NBA now, of course, has a rule for that load managing for a reason, because, you know, fans, we pay a lot of money to come out and see these guys play, and many of them don't show up. I remember a few years ago going to a Milwaukee Bucks game, and Giannis didn't even play that game, unfortunately. In all respects to Giannis, he's an amazing basketball player, but he was not listed as injured that night. He just took rest. And as an NBA fan, think about it. That could be that last person's time going to a basketball game, and they won't be able to see possibly one of their favorite players play. Yes, overall, there are some key differences with the 90s style of play of basketball and in this modern era. The game today is more skilled. That's just a natural progression, that something that's going to happen. And you know what? We're going to look at this now 20 years from the line and may say, oh man, we're done with the 2020s. Because this era of basketball now is really giving us some of the most skilled players we've seen throughout NBA history. And these guys are just getting better and better and better. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're done with the 90s, because I think every single era of basketball is amazing. You know, from the early days to what we see now, the game has only progressed and got better with time. I mean, think about the money that guys were making back then in comparison to now. I remember watching this video not so long ago about how much Steve Kerr made when he was on the Chicago Bulls. He's only getting $750,000. And look at the guys now today who are like shooters like Steve Kerr, who are getting paid like $30-something million. They're getting paid way, way more to do a service than he was back in the day. So that just shows you the progression of the NBA and where it has come from. So you can't discredit legends that have come from the past and has made the game what it is today. Michael Jordan influenced the game of basketball so much that we are talking about him still to this day, even with this whole 90s trend to start with. All of these guys who have come in the NBA have paved the way for what the game is today. So we can't really discredit any era of basketball. Just appreciate greatness, man, for what you see it each and every single time. Because one day, these guys like LeBron James, the Kevin Durant's, who we see now today with some of our favorite players, they won't be here anymore. They'll be gone. Look, every era has its pros and its cons. Certain things the 90s did better than the 2000s. Some things the 2000s did were better than the 90s. Some things that the 2010s did better than that era. And it just keeps going. So that's all I really have to say, though, in this video, man. I'm really just tired of seeing this trend of people saying, oh, we're done with the 90s. It's really annoying. Go back, watch basketball, learn more about basketball, and then maybe then you can come sitting at the table with people who actually know and talk about basketball. I'm not going to sit here and say that I know every single thing about basketball because I don't, but I'm a big fan. So I just feel like, as a fan especially, you can't discredit each and every era, bro. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, man. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more basketball content each and every single week. Have a great day. Peace.